Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the February 5th, 2026 meeting of the City of Nashua Planning Board. First item on the agenda is roll call.
All right, Mr. Bollinger,
Here.
Adam Varley,
Here.
Maggie Harper, Dan Hudson,
Here.
Larry Hirsch,
Here.
Cameron Green,
Here.
Alderman Patricia Klee,
Here.
Benjamin Zoller. We have 6 people, and that would be a quorum.
All right, thank you, Scott. Next item on the agenda, approval minutes from the January 8th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review those minutes and is willing to make a recommendation regarding their acceptance or acceptance with amendment? Alderman Klee.
Yes, I'd like to make that recommendation for acceptance of the minutes.
All right, thank you. Motion by Alderman Klee. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And Chair would like to abstain, please.
Okay.
But motion passes. Next item on the agenda, communications. Have we had any late communications come in since the packets were sent out?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we had an updated landscape plan to the 60 Crown Street project, and we also had an updated staff report as of today for the Glenwood cases, East Glenwood and Linton Street case.
All right, thank you, Connor. All right. If any members of the board had already downloaded materials, the latest hyperlinks on the agenda should be current. So, all right. Next item on the agenda: report of chair, committee, and liaison. I see Ms. Harper is not here this evening. I do not have anything to add at the moment. And before we head into our regular cases, I would just like to read the planning board procedure for the record. The procedure of the meeting is as follows. After the legal notice of each conditional, special use permit, site plan, or subdivision plan is read by the chair, the board will determine if that application is complete and ready for the board to take jurisdiction. The public hearing will begin, at which time the applicant or representative will be given time to present an overview and description of their project. The applicant shall speak to whether or not they agree with recommended staff stipulations. The board will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff. The chair will then ask for testimony from the audience. First, anyone wishing to speak in opposition or with concern to the plan may speak. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. This would be the time to ask questions you may have regarding the plan. Next, testimony will come from anyone wishing to speak in favor of the plan. The applicant will then be allowed a rebuttal period, at which time they shall speak to any issues or concerns raised by prior public testimony. After this is completed, the public hearing will end and the board will resume the public meeting, at which time the board will deliberate and vote on the application before us. The board asks that both sides keep their remarks to the subject at hand and try not to repeat what has already been said. Above all, the board wants to be fair to everyone and make the best possible decision based on the testimony provided and all applicable approval criteria established in the Nashua Revised Ordinances. Thank you for your interest and courteous attention, and if I could kindly request that you turn off your cell phones or put them on silent mode. Greatly appreciated. All right, moving along. Under new business, conditional special use permits, first item on the agenda is case 825-0200, property located at 16 East Glenwood. And if the board saw fit, we could also hear that in conjunction with new business subdivision plan case 825-0185. At this time, I would ask if any member of the board has reviewed those applications for completeness and is willing to make a motion regarding the board accepting jurisdiction over those cases. Mr. Varley, please.
Mr. Chair, as to cases 825-0200 and 825-0185, I would make a motion that the applications are complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, the board has jurisdiction. Mr. Beals, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Ethan Beals. I'm a project manager at Hayner Swanson, doing business at 3 Congress Street here in the city of Nashua, New Hampshire. Here tonight representing Silver Lining Development for a proposed subdivision. Also with me tonight is the project's attorney Andy Perlman. With the chair's permission, I'd like to go ahead and present the facts of the case and then be happy to answer any questions that the board or public may have. The existing site is located at 16 East Glenwood Street, which is located in the southeast quadrant of the city. It is known in the City of Nashua Assessor's Office as map 129, lot 187. It is located in the RA Urban Residence Zoning District. Overall, the subject site measures 0.524 acres in size. It's abutted by residential uses in all directions, Linton Street to the north and East Glenwood Street to the south. Subject property is currently partially developed and contains a single-family residence, which we will admit is fallen into a state of disrepair. Topography on the site can generally be classified as mild to moderate and generally slopes in a western direction towards a delineated wetland along the western property boundary. An existing cross-country sewer main bisects the western portion of the property, running from Osgood Road / the Sunset Heights Elementary School, which exists to the north, running in a southerly direction towards East Glenwood Street. Access to the site is currently provided via driveway curb cut onto East Glenwood Street. The existing dwelling is serviced by city sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas and overhead electric and telecommunication utilities. If you don't mind scrolling to the proposed plan, Connor, thank you. Our client purchased the property a little bit over a year ago, and given the area of the oversized lot, thought it would be a good candidate for some infill development. Therefore, it's being proposed to subdivide the existing lot 187 into 3 total lots. The existing dwelling on lot 187 will remain and will fortunately be renovated, and the 2 new dwellings will be constructed on new lots 191 and 195. Access to the dwellings will be provided via 2 new driveway curb cuts onto East Glenwood and 1 new driveway on Linton, but I'll give you a little bit more on that shortly. To support the proposed development, the Zoning Board of Adjustment actually granted a total of 12 variances, which I thought might have been the record in the city, but the majority of which are really due to the fact that the existing block is set up in general nonconformance with the lot depth requirements in the RA zone. So in other words, the RA zone has a lot depth requirement that the existing block does not actually currently meet. The ZBA also granted a special exception permitting us to impact about 6,050 square feet of wetland buffer, the majority of which is currently disturbed and or exists within that previously mentioned cross-country sewer easement. Importantly, we are not disturbing any actual wetland as part of this project. I'll also mention that while a majority of the project is focused on the previously mentioned lot 187, just to the north of it, there's an existing buildable lot of record, lot 259, that's also owned by our client, and it's also proposed to construct a single-family dwelling on this lot as well. All the dwellings proposed are relatively modest in size and are intended to fit the character of the overall existing neighborhood. In terms of utilities, a portion of the existing cross-country sewer run and the associated easement will be relocated to allow for better development planning. The proposed dwellings will all be serviced by city sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas, and overhead electric and telecommunication utilities. In terms of stormwater management, the project actually proposes significant improvements to the existing condition. Currently, in addition to the subject site, a portion of the adjacent Linton Street block generally flows in a western direction across the subject property and into the wetland along the westerly property boundary. This drainage area measures about 2.9 acres in size and doesn't contain any formal treatment practices. In fact, if you had visited the end of Linton Street prior to the recent, I'll call it a dusting of snow we had about a week ago, you would notice that the runoff leaving Linton Street actually channelizes at the end of Linton and was causing some active erosion on that slope towards the wetland. By using porous pavement and some other small infiltration practices, we're actually able to capture about 2.2 acres of that original 2.9 acre drainage area, provide formal quantitative and qualitative treatment of runoff, and get that runoff back into the ground, really for an area that, again, currently does not contain any formal treatment practices. Therefore, our professional opinion is that in terms of stormwater, the proposed project improves existing conditions relatively substantially compared to that existing condition today. As I previously mentioned, both lot 159 and the existing lot 259 will gain access what is really from a paper street portion of Linton Street. Given this kind of unique and nuanced scenario, I'm going to just turn it over to Attorney Perlman for a minute to try to explain that a little bit better than I can, and then I'll come back and finish up with my presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Andy Perlman with Prunier and Perlman here in Nashua. The undeveloped portion of Linton Street is what we call a paper street, and it currently exists as a private way. Road law in New Hampshire is tricky to figure out, doesn't come up that often, and the team, being the city's team and our team, we've been going back and forth on this over the past few weeks. But what we've come down to is that in 1924, this whole neighborhood, Linton, Glenwood, Hobart, was all laid out with over roughly 200 lots. And a plan was approved, and then over time, Linton got built in sections, and the city accepted portions of Linton over time. I want to say, I don't have the date exactly, but the law at the time in 1924 was that when a street is dedicated as shown on a plan, the municipality has rights to that for a period of 20 years. And if the city doesn't accept that dedicated street within a period of 20 years, then the municipality's rights to that lapse. But that doesn't mean the paper street goes away. The paper street's still there, and it's subject to private rights to access that street, and that's what we have today. So we have lot 259, lot 190, what is that? 190, 195. So lot 259, it was an existing lot of record, and that clearly has, under New Hampshire case law, that has an implied right of access from the end of Linton Street. The question that we're still going back and forth on a little bit, you see, there was a question in the staff memo, the updated staff memo, is whether lot 195 has those same rights, because lot 195 didn't exist back in 1924. It exists, hopefully, as of tonight. So the question is, do we have those same implied access rights to 195? I believe we do. There's some discussions back and forth. If we do, then we're going to be all set with an implied right of access to that lot. If we don't, we'll be obtaining easements to access that. Our developer team, they've already been in touch with the neighbors, and we'll provide that to the staff. Along the way, that statute was amended. So now, if we were to do this today, we would have under the current law, we would have to do a petition to discontinue a street. Right? But that didn't exist when this 1924 subdivision was laid out. Just an interesting note, if you look at that subdivision plan, what is now South Main was Lowell Road. That was the access way to take your horses down to Lowell. So that's about it. We will have a trip to the Board of Aldermen under statutory section 41 of 674-41 to build for a building permit on a private way like this. We will have to get approval from the Board of Aldermen. Again, that's a condition shown in the staff report, and that's fine. We knew that early on with our team, so I'm happy to answer any questions. So we're working off a paper street that we will have a host of easements, a host of agreements for this. For example, when we were at the Conservation Commission, we prepared a porous pavement easement agreement. There's going to be a shared maintenance, a shared driveway, shared infrastructure type of agreement between the lots. So there's a lot more work to do on this, but all of that would be submitted to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Varley? Yep.
Just a quick question. So the intent then is that whatever's constructed where the paper street currently exists, that would remain private. There'd be no.
100%.
Yeah.
Mr. Hudson is quoted saying, "I don't care what you do as long as it's not ours." Well, it's a paraphrase. Thank you.
Other questions for Attorney Pearlman? Okay, Alderman Clee. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I apologize. And I'm looking at it and I see where the paper street is on Linton and so on. So is the idea of these two lots to be able to put them together to create a larger development type of, is that, I guess I'm a little confused and I apologize for my,
No, that's okay. If you look at Ethan's plans, you'll
Yes.
see a driveway coming, it looks like a continuation of Linden Street, but that's really going to be a private drive.
Okay.
Continuing off of Linden Street. And then from that, it'll be two separate driveways.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I had looked at the plan and I'm sorry, right now I'm looking at the GIS, so I didn't have that in my head, but thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
actually, Attorney Pearlman, does Lot 256 have any interest in this, or I guess Lot 198, would they have to relinquish any rights, or does the prior documentation of the acceptance or non-acceptance diminish or extinguish their rights?
Oh, the Moreau's? I know those.
And then I think the Felt
No,
House.
they do not have to participate in this at all. They can. Well, that's a good question. For example, my shared driveway agreement is going to have to anticipate that lot could be subdivided in the future, because it could be. So if that happens, they will have the right to join our driveway agreement.
Okay, yeah, obviously, they have existing access on the built-out or accepted portion of Linton Street.
Right.
I couldn't presuppose that they would or would not have an interest in that mystery section, I guess, for lack of a better term, but I just didn't know if they needed to be participants directly in this process for.
But we are anticipating that lot one day could be subdivided. And so our driveway agreement will likewise anticipate that it could have another lot built into it. But the Moreau's that own that property, they don't have to participate. We've talked to them, they don't have to participate in this at all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I apologize.
Certainly.
I am sorry. I feel so bad for you, then up and down. So just to help me understand, I understand the paper street, I understand it's not belonging to the city. Are you contending that this particular paper street property is going to belong to the two properties that you're talking to? And because I know how paper streets work with the division, it goes to each side of it.
Yes.
So if this becomes a null and void, part of that would belong to the Moreau's and part of it would belong to 37 Linton as well.
Well, it does today.
Okay,
The parties, I don't know the lot number, but the Felt
Yeah.
Patch to the south, the Moreau's to the north.
right,
And Silver Lining Development all own that paper street
right,
to the center line,
right.
right? But they own it subject to our right of access, private implied right of access.
May I?
No, certainly, Alderman
Okay.
Clee, yep.
So when I look at it, that paper street where the properties that you're speaking of border, they don't go all the way to the city street. So that portion that's not part of the city street technically belongs to those other two properties. Am I correct? And you have to negotiate with them a right of way? Is that the way this works, or?
You're-
Maybe I'm not understanding.
No,
that.
you are understanding it very well. So if I understand your question,
I look at it as a big, long, kind of triangle, rectangle, and this first portion of it where Linden Street truly ends,
yeah,
and I'm looking at their property lines. There's like this, say it's this big, half of it belongs to the other two properties.
we sketched, if you can see what's up on the screen now,
Right,
that's the underlying ownership as it stands today,
okay.
and subject to the access rights.
Okay, and the access rights would come from the other two properties, or from the
Well,
city?
and this is where
Right.
we're not settled, all right?
Okay.
But we will be. So, Lot 259
Right,
has, because it was an existing lot, the original lot from the 1924 plan, that has implied right of access such that we don't necessarily have to go get easements from the neighbors.
Okay,
The question becomes, new lot 195 that we're creating
that's the one
today,
across the street, yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
does that have that implied right of access? It's a fair question.
Okay.
It's a good question. And so if it doesn't, then yes, we're going to have to go to the neighbors and get an easement.
Okay,
If it does, then we're all set.
okay, so you're waiting for that interpretation
Yeah.
of it. Thank you, I apologize for
Whoever brought
asking you
that
to
up,
repeat it.
thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Certainly. Other questions for Attorney Perlman?
Okay,
None at
thank
this time. Ethan, come right back. Thank you.
I won't interrupt you again.
Oh, very, very complicated and very, very nuanced. It goes
Yes.
back into very ancient road law that pre-exists way before I was ever on this earth. I appreciate the chair's calling it a mystery portion of Linton Road, because it took us about 3 weeks working back and forth with staff, which I'm grateful for, to try to come up with what do we call this strip of land.
That wasn't proper or
I'm
a
going to
judgment.
start, I think I
couldn't
might
think of
start
anything
calling it a
better.
mystery section of
Okay.
Linton. I like that term.
I've just been learning more and more about paper streets and who has what in access, so thank you.
So, given everything that we just talked about, under Land Use Code 190-8, a special use permit is really required in order to get access to these two lots via a paper street. A special use permit is really a pretty rare section of the code, and there's essentially 6 criteria, which I'll briefly mention, which are as follows. 1, adequate access for proper water, sewer, and other utility connections. 2, provision for snow and trash removal. 3, proper drainage from driveway. 4, adequate access for emergency vehicles. 5, safe site distance for driveway. And 6, no other substantial adverse impact to public health and safety. Based on the plans that were submitted here tonight, and again, I will caveat it by saying we still have some stuff to work out with staff, but based on the plans and our testimony here tonight, we believe we have fulfilled all of the criteria involved that are required for this special use permit. Switching over to waivers, here tonight we are seeking 3 waivers from the National Land Use Code. Out of respect for the board's time, I'll briefly summarize them, but ask that my waiver letter that I had previously submitted be incorporated into the record by reference. Waiver request 1 is of 190-282B9, which is a common one that the board hears, requiring existing conditions within 1,000 feet of a proposed subdivision. Again, a common waiver request. Providing detailed survey within 1,000 feet of the subdivision boundary is cost prohibitive to just about every project, and also provides no real benefit to our plans or to the public. Second waiver request is of 190-212A1, which requires sidewalks to be constructed along the property's frontage on public streets. Again, still a fairly common waiver request. Currently, there's no sidewalks in the vicinity of the proposed project. In lieu of constructing sidewalks that really wouldn't connect to any other sidewalks, we are proposing an in lieu of contribution of $7,000, which is in accordance with the city's calculation and procedures for sidewalk in lieu of funds. Finally, waiver request 3 is of 190-221, which requires the proposed project to be serviced by underground electric and telecommunication utilities. Currently, the existing dwelling off of East Glenwood Street and the entirety of the surrounding neighborhood are all serviced by overhead electric and telecommunication utility lines. Therefore, it's not out of character with the neighborhood, and so we would like to also utilize overhead electric and telecommunication lines to service the 3 new dwellings. In summary, we believe our site plan conforms to the City of Nashville Land Use Code. We have reviewed the updated staff report and are in agreements with staff's recommended conditions of approval. Again, I'll note that we still have some work to do to provide some additional follow-up, both to planning staff, but also to work with Mr. Hudson's team to satisfactorily address their comments, which were in the letter in your board packets today. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that Andy has not already answered.
Thank you. I actually have a question for staff, if I may. Do you believe that the conditions, as written in the staff report, accurately describe the prescriptive, I guess, next steps, particularly aldermanic action and things of that sort? And obviously, if any of those were not to happen, what would be the situation? Would they come back? Does that nullify the approval, or if this board were to decide favorably in both of these matters, and for some reason there was not aldermanic concurrence, what would then happen?
So it's our understanding that this case does need the aldermanic action for the R-74, what was it, 674-41, due to the lots not having direct frontage to the streets. So we're fairly confident in that. And then for the second condition that was, I guess, written in a way that was, if required, because we're still going back and forth with the applicant on the exact criteria to consider what is proof of access. And so that could be by way of formal easement, by way of demonstration of implied easement. And so that is why we wrote it as if needed.
Okay, and thank you for the clarification, but in essence, you think that the language in the conditions is sufficient to cover the subsequent actions that would be required?
I do.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Beals or staff? Adam, go ahead.
This is also for staff. In the technical comments, there's a reference to, it says as a comment from the fire department, units taking access on the undeveloped portion of Linton Street are to be sprinkled. Is that captured in the subsequent condition somewhere? Is that in the, I don't know if that was in the.
No, the fire marshal's office did not provide me a formal comment letter, and this was just from my conversation with them. So I felt it would be best put in the technical comments.
It's captured in C.
Oh, yes. Apologies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was your question.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions from the board at this time, either for the applicant or for staff? All right. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Beals. I'm going to open this up to the public. Is there any member of the public here this evening that would like to speak in opposition or with concern regarding these two applications? Certainly, sir. Just please come right up to the microphone. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Joseph Cottrell, 45 East Glenwood Street. I just had a question more than a concern.
That's okay. No, this
Could
is
you
the
pull
time.
back up that supplemental where the exhibit was? I'm just not understanding where exactly these additional dwellings are going. Are they going in that 259 lot?
One is there, yes.
So that's on the opposite side of East Linton Street, of Linton Street, excuse me, not
Yes, sir.
right on it. So what exactly are we doing with the 16 East Glenwood piece of property?
One residence.
That's already there?
Will be turning into 3 lots with potentially 3 residences.
So how many, all right, so
3 total.
3 total on that
New
piece
residents
and
on
then
that piece
1
of-
behind?
Yes.
All right. I apologize, sir, I didn't get your name.
Yeah, it's okay, just for the record, so the microphone picks it up. If you
Sure.
just want to address your question to the board, and then if we need to
Okay.
be the caveat.
I apologize, I'm not
conduit.
familiar with this.
No, that's okay, no. Go
So,
right ahead.
he spoke about the drainage at the top of Linton Street. The drainage in front of that particular home is very, very poor. And melting season and heavy rains, it's oftentimes impassable. So I was wondering what impact this new construction would have on that, on East Glenwood Street itself.
Okay. What we'll do, the applicant, they're allowed to come up and basically answer your question. So if you have other questions, just put them out there, and I'm sure they're taking good notes, and they'll try to come up here and
That's all
address
I
any
have for now.
questions that you have.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
okay, thank you. Other members of the public like to speak? Certainly. If you just want to identify yourself for the
Yes.
record, sir.
My name is Mark Connolly. I'm at 36 East Glenwood. So I'd like to second what Joe had said about the drainage is very, very bad, and it doesn't seem to have been addressed so far. This came up at the zoning meeting, and they said they were going to address it. Some of the other things that still are concerning to me, and it doesn't directly impact me, even though I share a property line. Up on Linden Street, there was the talk of the common driveway coming down, and that, based on what you had mentioned, it has to, you're applying for a waiver when it comes to trash and snow and a few other things based on the common driveway. Well, I don't understand how, and, you know, I'm not an expert, I don't know how a common driveway, you're gonna be able to get trash pickup, you know, that's just one thing. And where is all that snow from Linden Street gonna go? Because it's quite the drop-off. I mean, I have walked that back, and I'm sure you folks have too. So I need, just, I don't need, I would love to have some more clarification about that. And that's pretty much it, you know, the rest is just kind of just the concern about not knowing exactly how everything's gonna turn out. But the other thing was mentioned was, I think somebody mentioned something about talking to some of the neighbors. This is the only time that I've ever actually seen any of these folks here, so, and I'm not directly, but I do share the the right-hand property line, because I'm at 36. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your questions. Appreciate it. Other members of the public that would like to speak in opposition or with concern or just with general questions? See none. Any members of the public that would like to speak in favor of this application? Okay, see none. Mr. Beals, would you like to come back up? And I'm sure you were taking notes.
Yeah, I love any opportunity to talk about drainage. It's really my bread and butter and what I spend 95% of my time thinking about. So, of course, any project really in the city, any project overall, you need to do a stormwater management analysis for the project. As the board knows, you need to compare essentially pre-development peak flows that leave your project area, and then you have to reduce those peak flows in the post-development condition, even with the amount of additional impervious surfaces, so additional pavement, additional roof, et cetera. As part of that investigation, we also uncovered, or not uncovered, it's not a secret, but a large portion of that Linton Street block really is flowing across our subject property and into a low point, kind of a low-lying wetland that really exists along our westerly property boundary. A portion of that, yes, flows directly into the wetland. A portion of that flows more of in a southwesterly direction, kind of out onto East Glenwood Street. The analysis showed, which again, I believe out of the comments from city engineering staff, there was not any significant comments regarding questions about the stormwater management analysis. We showed significant reductions, even though it's a small piece of property, we showed significant reductions in peak flows leaving the site. There's a combination of treatment practices that are available. There's a combination of leach and catch basins, so capture the runoff, store it, infiltrate it back into the ground. Almost the entirety of the proposed shared driveway is going to be porous pavement. Porous pavement is a commonly recognized best management stormwater practice, which really allows runoff. Runoff flows across the porous pavement. It captures it. It gets it into a filter layer below. There's also a crushed stone storage layer that allows some of that runoff to be stored and then infiltrated back into the ground. I believe every single one of the proposed dwellings, including the existing dwelling, contains what I think the plans identify as a roof infiltration unit. So there will be gutters constructed along the roof line, along the eave of all of the dwellings. Downspout will capture the runoff. It will go into a small little infiltration piece back into the ground. Of course, we've in a number of the original, going back to the original zoning approval, several neighbors identified, hey, this low-lying wetland commonly fills up in any even small storm events, and there are some existing kind of flooding issues. Kind of the numbers, I would agree, showed that, but my testimony tonight is that the proposed development, even though we are adding some impervious surfaces, the combination of treatment practices is a significant improvement compared to what exists today. Again, I will reiterate the point, if you were to have gone out there before the snow was on the ground, you would see some active erosion at the very end as it does slope down at the end of Linton Street. A couple of the other pieces, in terms of trash and snow removal, absolutely. Mr. Hudson's team identified those pieces. Both of those are pieces that we will have to work out with City DPW to their satisfaction. We are not asking for a waiver on either of those two items. It would be my presumption that the two dwelling units off of Linton essentially have what's the equivalent of a long driveway. And so they're going to have to bring their trash barrels up to the top of the paved and accepted portion of Linton Street, which is also what Mr. Hudson's team identified in their comments as being a potential option. If they choose not to do that, it will have to be serviced by private trash pickup, but I would anticipate that they will just have a long walk with their trash barrels up to the paved and accepted portion of Linton. And then in terms of snow, same thing goes. We're going to have to work out with City DPW where some of that snow goes. The existing or the proposed shared driveway, as Attorney Perlman mentioned, we will need to have a shared maintenance agreement where those two dwelling units have some type of pavement restoration, pavement maintenance, because with porous pavement, it has to be actively maintained, so it has to be swept, sometimes even vacuumed, and included as part of that is the plowing of that. It will be treated as any other shared or private driveway, such that City DPW doesn't need to drive down it, would be the goal. I think I have answered all of the questions that were previously mentioned, but if there are any others, I'm happy to do so as well.
And actually, Ethan, just a quick one. Real roughly, it looks like now that elevation drop under existing conditions is about 20+ feet, maybe even a little bit more. So in addition to the porous pavement, you're leveling that a little bit.
Yes, yes.
And you're supplying some drainage structures as well. So you're not inherently, again, if I was looking at the plan correctly, you're just not going to have that deep drop off that would encourage that more rapid flow that yielded some of the erosion that you spoke of earlier.
Yeah, so that's correct.
A true statement?
Yeah, I apologize for not mentioning. Yeah, part of the grading that goes involved, and if you visited the end of Linton today, it's a little hard to kind of conceptualize, and I recognize that, on the screen it's really lines on a plan, but those relate to real contours and real topography that we're proposing. But Mr. Chairman, I think you kind of summarized it well, where our goal is to basically take that existing slope and try to pick it up a little bit, and we do that with a number of, yes, there's no question there's going to be some existing steeper slopes at the very end, but we're able to try to kind of make up grade by picking up that driveway so the driveway is not too steep. We're going to have some kind of similar to a walkout basement, where the back side of a yard, you might be able to walk out of the basement on the low side. It's going to be the opposite. So some of these units will have a drive under garage on the front side, and then the grade on the back side of the house will be higher than on the front side. So it's kind of the opposite idea of a walkout basement. It's a drive under garage, if you've seen some of those, where backyards are higher in elevation than front yards. So we're able to make up grade in a number of kind of creative ways, but the goal is to kind of pick the site up, if you will, in order to be able to create a development pad to construct the dwellings.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Other questions of the applicant? Alderman Clee, yep.
Thank you, and one of the speakers had brought up the snow, and you said that that's something, I have properties in my ward, 110 A, B, and C, which is this long road that actually cuts through a private property of a church and so on, and that's all private, and they have to bring their trash out to the street. It's like about a quarter of a mile, literally, that they have to bring their trash out. But my question for this particular one is, now where Linden technically ends as far as the city street, I'm sure that the plows just plow, and maybe this is more for Mr. Hudson, they just plow the snow up to that area. Once those driveways are there, that's not going to be able to happen. So maybe, again, this might be for Mr. Hudson, whether or not this is going to become an issue for the city of trying to, it's not a real turnaround there. It's a dead end. And how will snow be taken from that area? The driveways are going to get plowed in. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but we can't leave a wall of snow there. Has that been discussed, part of this discussion, or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, or we can, and they have to deal with a wall of snow.
Okay.
No, right now, you're right, it's a dead-end street. We did raise the snow storage as an issue, We were waiting to definitively find out the status of the street. Had that been public street, maybe there was an area as we head past the public portion, we could pile snow on one side or the other. They kind of have drainage features on one side and the other, but now that it appears that that's been defined as the neighbor's lot, then I'm not sure that they can grant us that right to store snow on the neighbor's property. So it is an issue. On one side of the road, we have a retaining wall that is in the right-of-way that, kind of restricts where we can put snow there. I don't know the status of that wall, the history of it, permitting status, any of that stuff. So I don't have the answers here for you today. I'm comfortable with the condition that we have, that we need to continue to work on that and see what we can come up with to do the best we can. But again, worst case, we'll push it to the end of the street and they'll have to clean it up from there,
Okay.
to suit their access.
I'm fine with that as long as everybody understands that when they buy this property, because I can tell you from the 110A, B, and C, as each new owner has bought it, it's like, really, I have to bring my trash all the way out to here, and it becomes there's other issues with those three properties, but it becomes quite and I can tell you as an alderman, I'm the one who gets the calls. So that's why I'm saying is I really want this to be defined, and I'm fine with it being a condition and so on, but I really do think it needs to be defined, and the neighbors have the right to understand how this is going to happen.
Absolutely, and if I may just provide a little bit of more
Sure.
commentary. I think fortunately, at the longest, if you were to walk all the way down Linton, it's maybe 600 feet, so fortunately, it's nowhere near a quarter-mile long walk.
It's really
though
long.
I'm sure they enjoy their exercise with their trash cans. I think I've been, I'll call it fortunate to represent, I think, 3 projects in about the last year that are at the very end of dead-end streets. The reality is, in an older city like Nashua, there's a lot of oversized lots at the very end of dead-end streets, and they become good candidates for infill development, albeit it takes a little bit more work than a typical 1 into 3 subdivision. On past projects, I've been fortunate enough to go and meet with Mr. Hudson and his team, and we work collaboratively to try to come up with a solution that both works for the applicant and the people who actually are out plowing the streets. So I look forward to doing that again on this one, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
It seems like there's a willingness to have those discussions, and given, I think, some of the extraneous conditions particular to this application, I think there's going to be continued discussions on a number of topics, so.
I trust our staff, so, yeah.
I do as well, so. Other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none at this time. Like to close the public hearing, enter our deliberation. I agree there's some challenges there. I think to the extent that they can, they've tried to address particularly the drainage matter. Obviously, there's some aldermanic action and some other extraneous things that we don't often see, but it wouldn't be the first time that we've had those type of conditions. I would feel comfortable moving forward with this application. Alderman Clee.
May I ask you to clarify the aldermanic actions that need to be taken for my edification also, so that when it does go to the Board of Aldermen, I'm sure that Mr. Durfee will be there to explain it, but I'd like to be able to.
So I don't misstate it. I'm gonna lean on staff. If Sam or Connor wanted to take that one.
Yep, so Board of Aldermen action is necessary to allow the issuance of building permits or construction of buildings on lots that are served by private streets. And so with, the applicant's kind of synopsis on the status of the undeveloped portion of Linton Street, the city is in agreement that this would classify as such private right-of-way, and which is why Board of Aldermen action is necessary.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and may I?
Certainly, yes.
I think I've aired all of my concerns, and I do have faith in Mr. Hudson and the rest of the staff, and it does sound like everybody is trying to work. I just want to, for the record, state that, especially when it comes to snow and drainage, I do feel that the conversations are happening, but that we also consider the neighbors that are in that passage as well, as so that we don't offload to any of their properties and so on. I feel confident that that will happen, but I just want to make sure we put it on the record as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Mr. Hudson?
Just further to the aldermanic actions, I just want to be clear in my own mind, but I think you said the ZBA granted the zero frontage So the lot will be created, the subdivision will happen, it's just a matter of whether or not somebody can build on that lot. Is that true?
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? I suppose the only other thing I would want to comment on, the waiver requests, these are fairly standard ones. I wouldn't have an issue, just given the character of the neighborhood, particularly with the not providing underground utilities. And we've seen the sidewalk in lieu of contribution before, so I didn't see anything, really unusual with those requests. So I guess with that, I don't know if we're at the point where any member of the board would be willing to make a motion. I think order of operations here, I think we'd want to take the waivers first, then take up the special use permit, and then take up the final subdivision approval. So if any member is so inclined to perhaps make a motion regarding the waivers. Not all, oh, Mr. Green, please. All right.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion for new business A 25-0185 and A 25-0200 to grant the following waivers. The first, 190-282B9, to waive the requirement to show physical features on site within 1,000 feet, as well as the second being 190-212A1, to waive the requirement that a sidewalk be located at least one side of the street and provide a payment in lieu of provide payment in lieu of $7,000. And the third being 190-221, to waive the requirement to provide utilities underground, considering the criteria from RSA 674 36-2N and RSA 674 44-3E, and 190-148D, finding that strict conformity would pose unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and the waivers would not be contrary to spirit and intent of the regulations, and the specific circumstances of the land will properly carry out that spirit and intent. Using the rationale provided by the applicant attached to the waiver request letter dated January 26, 2026.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Green, is there a second? Second by Mr. Varley. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. Green, would you like to continue?
Yes, I would. I'd also like to make a motion to grant the special use permit for the development of lots 259 and 195 with access from paper streets. As part of the motion to approve the SUP, the board finds that the application does fill the conditions of 190-8D and delegate the formalization of the plan for snow removal and trash removal to the staff, as it currently is unsatisfactory.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Green, is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. Green, please, if you don't mind.
Now, I would also like to make a motion to grant the final subdivision approval for the 3-lot subdivision for the property located at 16 East Glenwood Street, finding that the application meets the approval criteria outlined in subdivision NRO 190-138G, subject to the following conditions in the staff report A through P.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Varley. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving along. Next item on the agenda, under new business site plan, case A25-0215, property located at 60 Crown Street. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review that application and is willing to make a motion regarding its completeness and the board accepting jurisdiction. Mr. Varley.
Mr. Chair, yes, as to case 825-0215, I would make a motion that the application is complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. The board has jurisdiction. Is there anyone here this evening to speak on behalf of the applicant?
All right, good evening, folks. My name is Nick Golan. I'm a licensed engineer and principal with the firm TF Moran, here this evening on behalf of ArcSource Nichols Realty LLC as owners, as well as Tamposi Brothers Holdings LLC as the developers. I am joined by Mr. Joe Tamposi, who is in the audience. If there's any specific questions about AMI or the funding sources or otherwise for this affordable housing project, we might have him come up here and say hi and tell you a little bit about it. What are we doing and where are we? So this is tax map 24, lot 49, located in the general industrial and transit-oriented development, or TOD, overlay district. The subject lot is just under an acre, approximately 0.9. It has some interesting characteristics. It has multiple frontages along Crown Street, some interesting geometry, both the lot itself with some various jogs, as well as the adjacent roadway network. So this was a little bit of a puzzle, trying to figure out how can we maximize the redevelopment of this site and provide smooth access points in and around this building. Taking a step back and a little bit of a look at what's around us, one of the things that's always hard to do is explain what this project, what a given project may look like. I don't have that issue here. We actually developed the immediately adjacent site that is 4 Avery Lane, with a very similar building with a very similar use. So if you've happened through the area, what you see there is essentially what we're trying to create on this lot here. So at Avery Lane there, we were looking at 95 units spread across 2 buildings. Other abutters that we have when we look to the north is Daytech Tool and Machine Inc. at 181 East Hall Street, currently operating as Brazilian Family Auto Repair. To the east, we have Crown Street and the Merrimack River, and to the south, again, Crown Street and undeveloped land that is further beyond. As we transition from our existing conditions plan into our proposal, we're proposing a 5-story affordable multifamily housing project. It will be comprised of 54 parking spaces, which provides a parking ratio just over 1, which is fairly consistent with projects that have been recently approved by this board, as well as the adjacent property that I mentioned with Avery Lane. As we look at the overall site, access is in 2 locations. We have a full-service driveway off of Crown Street immediately to the south side of the property that provides access into the parking lot. You can see where the transformer is immediately located to the right with good access to our utility room and the 10,000 plus or minus square foot footprint of our multifamily residential resides. ADA parking immediately dead center as far as access into the building. And as you work your way northerly through the parking lot, you can see where there are 2 dumpster areas that have been located to provide suitable refuge area for trash associated with this facility. Believe it or not, there is some math when it comes to designing dumpsters, and we want to make sure that it's suitable. In this case, we have 2 12-yard dumpsters, which will be more than adequate for the 50 units that we're proposing. When we look at those units, it's an evaluation of their types. So in this case, we're looking at 25 1-bedroom units and 25 2-bedroom units. The aggregate storage that we would need is certainly provided across those 2 dumpster locations. So we work our way east across the property. There's a secondary egress point out to Crown Street. It is to a 1-way location, which then loops around the building to the south, back out to Crown Street, where you would enter back into the area that you entered into the building. Utilities, what we need is there. It's great to have that existing utility infrastructure already in place. Water, sewer, electric, and gas are already essentially at the property. There's a small water line extension that's required to upsize the line to provide for appropriate fire protection for our building. Landscaping, which is one item we're still working on with staff, but we think we have a solution, is provided in and around this property. The idea is to provide a little bit of year-round interest, different colors, different textures, in varying heights of our plantings that will ideally meet their surroundings. We're providing red maple, London plane tree, pin oak, and we're providing these very specific types of trees for a reason. These are your urban hardy type trees. They're okay with poor soil conditions. They do well with pollution, snow melt, various things that we were dealing with salt or otherwise. And then for other added interest, and to have our landscaping plan before us, we can see there's varying levels of shrubs, again, different colors. We have serviceberry, hydrangea, junipers, yews, inkberry. Again, a balance of different colors, different textures, which, well, currently this lot is missing. So the landscaping that exists now is really some overgrown areas. There is some invasive species that will need to be removed and managed as part of this. The DPW did specifically request that we clear the area in front of the building as far as the existing landscaping that's out there, which will dramatically improve our sight lines, and then we'll work with staff on how we best replant that area. Given our location, we do have some nice river views, so we'll want to make sure we don't overly impair those. The species we have selected, since they'll be new, they are fast-growing natives, and again, very, very durable plantings. Pivoting a little bit, talk about some other elements we usually do with the project. Traffic. Traffic is fairly minimal when we think about a development of this project. We have a total of 50 units, so we look to IT Land Use Code 223 for affordable housing income limits, where we end up with a total of 28 a.m. and 23 p.m. peak hour trips. Those are split across trips coming in, trips exiting, so it is a fairly balanced amount of traffic. And although Crown Street is, we'll say, on the smaller side as far as its width or otherwise, we do have the ability for Crown Street to be able to manage this type of traffic. As requested by traffic, there is a traffic fee that would be associated with this that would go towards off-site improvements, which I believe was in the neighborhood of about $7,000. All right, talking about traffic, let's talk about our building. Again, about 10,000 square foot. It's 50,000 plus or minus square feet total across its 5 stories. As far as the materials, we can look to our neighbor as to what we're proposing. These are vinyl shake shingle siding on our lower stories, and then we transition to a vinyl horizontal siding at our upper stories. Because this is funded in part through the New Hampshire Housing Authority, this is a premium vinyl that is required. Now, as far as our color palette, we can thank our friends at Burnell Johnson Architects, Mr. David Johnson, where we have a lovely cream, seaweed, deep forest, and Tuscan olive. So some nice neutral tones that, again, will complement the buildings that were recently constructed next door, and then a charcoal gray asphalt shingle. So again, very similar to our next door. As far as just our unit sizes, to give some perspective, our 1-beds are in the neighborhood of about 665 square feet. Our 2-beds at 920 square feet. Last item I'll make mention of before I turn it back to the chair is there's one waiver that's requested as part of this project. As was mentioned as part of a prior application, it is a typical one you see regarding existing conditions where we're asking for a partial waiver to just show the survey on our lot and portions of the immediate vicinity. We didn't go to the full extent of distance required by the regulation. Try and be short and sweet and stop there.
All right, thank you. Actually, just one quick question. I'm sure it's going to come up at some point. Just the landscaping plan, it looks like some of those plantings, some if not all, are in the right-of-way on Crown Street. Has there been any discussion regarding maintenance or?
The expectations will likely put notation on the plan that states that we'll be the responsible party for the maintenance of those. And as with any right-of-way planting, if it's determined that it is not in the city's best interest for them to be there, then they would have to be removed.
Okay. Understood. Appreciate it. Thank you. Other questions from the board at this time? Alderman Clee, please.
Thank you, and maybe I should wait till the public speaks, but we did have a letter from an abutter who was concerned about the additional traffic. I heard what you said about the traffic flow would come in at different times and so on, but when I think of that there's 95 units on Avery, which for lack of a better term, dumps onto Crown Street, as well as this 50 units. I know you're talking about 54 parking spaces and so on. In my mind, that's, 145 units that have suddenly come online and so on. I'm all for affordable housing. I really love this, but I don't want to create a nightmare for those that are living there. They're already with the 95, and now we're adding 50 to it. Can you just at least talk to it a little bit?
I certainly can. No, it's a valid question. Some of this just goes to the master planning that the city of Nashua has undertaken. The transient orient overlay district is purposely targets the ability to build residential in this area. We work very hard with staff to make sure that not only the use, but the density is consistent with what the city has approved in the past, and to make sure that this is an appropriate location. We mentioned the neighboring project, which has access to Crown Street, but also has access to East Hollis. So it really does provide the opportunity for people to avoid Crown Street entirely, should they so choose. Avery Lane, which is a private way that really is a cut-through that connects the two, would provide that opportunity for access through that development and avoiding Crown Street. So yes, are we adding traffic? Any development will add traffic. That's a given. It's, can the existing roadway sustain that traffic, which our report states that it can, which is consistent with the requirements of the city of Nashua. And the fact that there's alternative roads available, I think, also is a benefit.
May I?
Certainly, Alderman Clegg. Yep.
Thank you. I had not noticed that Avery went out to East Hollis as well, so I appreciate that clarification. And just so that I have this in my mind, and what you're saying is that if this does become, those that are on those 95 units, they don't have to go to Crown Street. So if there does seem to be a traffic issue, they have an alternative, and maybe they'll go the other way.
For anyone who punches in their directions to Google before they leave the house,
Yeah.
They'll have the opportunity to evaluate what that existing traffic may or may not be, and it does provide alternatives, correct?
If I may, just one more.
Certainly,
question.
yeah.
Thank you. I also look at what direction people are coming off East Hollis as to whether or not it's easy to cut the traffic to get into Avery. So that is also something I would be keeping in mind as to the alternative route that these people will be taking. If they come out and they want to take a left, whether or not they'll be able to break that traffic, or coming in and wanting to take a right, whether or not they can break that traffic is
Very fair.
going to determine which way they go as well. So.
And I know there's also off-site improvements that are currently being contemplated by the city further down on Crown Street. So we'll help with our, I guess our partial funding of that will hopefully help realize it that much faster.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
that was also one other thing, Alderman Clay.
7,000, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did see that,
It
yeah.
seemed like there was no site-specific mitigation requested of DPW, but they are making the voluntary contribution towards the
Yeah,
corridor
I saw the
fund,
7,000, so thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? All right. Nick, thank you. Seeing none at this time,
Step
open it
back.
up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak in opposition or with concern? Come right up.
We did this before. My name's Carl Swanson. I live at 42 Crown Street. I'm the one that sent the letter in. So I have the 94 apartments 15 feet from my backyard, and now they want to put a 5-story building 2 doors down. And on Crown Street, you have to go out, you can go out through Avery Lane, but you can only go right over the bridge. You can't go down towards Main Square. So everybody's going to have to go through right in front of my house if they want to get up Crown Street. And there's days that I have to wait 15 to 20 minutes because the train's going for a ride. So what are you going to do when you have 50 to 75 cars backed up behind the train trying to get out? Or trying to come down to go back to home?
The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to your
I
question.
understand.
So if you have any other questions or concerns.
Too many to ask.
Too many to, understood, but appreciate it. Thank you for your testimony. Are there other members of the public that wish to speak in opposition or with concern? All right, seeing none. Any members of the public that wish to speak in favor of this application? Okay, seeing none. Nick, did you want to come up and try to address the traffic question that was raised?
So I think the question I'm being asked is to maybe expand a little bit more on the traffic element, that we have an abutter who's expressed some concern. And maybe some of this is, I don't have to tell you about, but just relative to how we evaluate traffic, and that we're evaluating peak hours. This isn't 50 cars coming out all at once. These cars are spaced out. When we talk about the traffic coming in during the peak AM hour, it's eight vehicles with 20 exiting, and during that PM hour, it's 14 in and 9 out. So if we were to compare this to a commercial use, where you would see turnover in your parking lot on a consistent basis, then you start to be a little bit more concerned. Is it a restaurant? Is it a fast food? Those types of uses really drive up the amount of traffic that's in a given area. This will be people's homes. So I liken this to a subdivision where we're building new homes. These homes are just vertical. So we can say with certainty that Ground Street is suitable for that number of trips. And we are providing our contribution to try and provide a better one as well.
Right. Thank you. I might lean on Mr. Hudson just briefly. Are you able to elaborate on some of the public efforts, whether state or municipal, that might be able to improve traffic in the area, just in general, even if they're long-term, 10-year plan type projects, or is there anything specifically identified?
So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll mention a couple things. So the first was discussion about work on Crown Street. We actually completed that work. At the intersection of Crown and Arlington, that used to be a yield condition. It was a wide sweeping right turn. And the previous development, one of the things we asked them to do was design a modification of the intersection, tighten it up such that we can make that a stop condition, make it safer, because it's been the location of some unfortunate crashes. So the applicant did design that, and we constructed the changes. And I don't know, I haven't heard positives or negatives for anybody, but usually no news is good news from my perspective. So that was done. We do have a future project at the intersection of Bridge Street and East Hollis Street. It's not going to dramatically change that location. The configuration is going to stay largely the same, but everything will be updated. We're going to make it more pedestrian accommodating by improving that network, and more bike-friendly as well by widening some shoulders there. Signal equipment will be replaced. The intersection at Bridge Street and D Street, where that's a temporary signal, which was put in as part of a previous development, that will become a permanent signal. So those are things that are contemplated. We do also have a future 10-year plan project for the corridor of East Hollis Street, and that hasn't started yet. That's a little ways out, but that also provides opportunities to make changes along the corridor.
So it's fair to say, independent of the proposed project, overall operational enhancements along East Hollis Street have been contemplated by the city, and there's certain projects either under study or in the motions for construction that will hopefully address some other concerns. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, and the traffic contribution requested, can be used for more immediate needs as well, or as matching funding towards those future projects, which are LPA projects through DOT, where they fund a large portion of those. So we welcome the contribution. If there was any other low-hanging, immediate fruit that we could pick and help solve traffic issues in the area, we would. But we welcome the contribution towards future improvements on the corridor.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Other questions for the applicant while he's here, or Mr. Varley, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, and I apologize, I've missed it in the materials, but I understand there was a traffic impact worksheet done. I'm assuming you didn't trigger the level requiring a study. Is that, just want to confirm that? Yeah.
Yep, that was included within our trip generation memo, was the standard TIR worksheet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions at this time? Okay. Thank you. With no other questions from the board, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll go into our public meeting. think they're trying to work within the space that they have here. I think it's consistent with the master plan in terms of providing that additional housing element. I know it is a unique area, particularly the Crown Street area in terms of traffic, but it does seem like this particular project will have sort of a de minimis impact overall. Mr. Hudson has alluded to other long-term, hopeful fixes, and the applicant is amenable to making a voluntary contribution. I could see myself supporting this, but again, I obviously want to hear back from the board, see if there's other questions or concerns. Alderman Klee, please.
Thank you. First, I think putting in 50 new units is always a shock to the neighborhood. And if I heard correctly, that during peak hours, there could be about 20 cars coming either in or out, and 19 the other direction. To me, that's still significant as a person who lives on a street, as a residential street. But I do understand that the master plan does call for us to increase our housing units, and I should have asked this question. These are also going to be partially affordable because they're HUD. I had that correct, right? I just wanted to make sure I wasn't hearing it from another project. But that being said, I think this is a good thing. The concern that I have, which I think one of the speakers who spoke against this project mentioned the railroad that goes through that. Having lived at a place when I lived in North Chelmsford, there were times that we were stuck inside the area because you couldn't get by the train going through. I guess the question I should have asked again is, where Avery Lane is a private road, does it allow, does staff know, does it allow for the public to cut through it, or do we know?
I don't know that off the top of my head, actually.
Okay. Mr. Bollinger, I think the applicant is willing to answer that if we can. I know we closed it, so I don't
That's
know if
okay.
it's
If
appropriate.
we could entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing to address that question, if you'd like to make that motion.
I would like to make that motion,
All right.
because I would just like to hear from the applicant about that.
Certainly.
I apologize.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
All
and
right.
thank you
Go
to
right
the
ahead.
committee.
Thank you again, Nick Gold and TF Moran. Although Avery Lane is a private lane, it is not signed to restrict through traffic. So
Okay.
it is open to the public.
Okay. Thank you. I am inclined to support this. I'm
Sorry, before we just,
Yes.
I
We
just
have to
want
close
Yeah,
the
no,
public
we're-
hearing.
reclose the.
I'm
All
jumping
right.
all over.
No,
the
no,
place.
no,
Thank
it's
you.
a-
That was my last question, I promise.
All right, no, it's okay.
Yes.
I'm joking, but are you sure? Because
I-
we're going to close the
No,
public hearing.
Please close it. Close it, I promise.
All right, all right.
I've been making everybody jump up and down. I apologize.
All right, so we're back into our deliberation. Thank you for the question, Alderman Klee.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. I am inclined to support this, but as I always say, I think we do have to keep in consideration of the neighborhood there, and the speaker who came up and spoke, I think he made a compelling argument of having to be stuck behind that. However, I think with or without these additional traffic, he's still going to be stuck behind the rail. This does not affect that, but I do realize that there's more cars in front of you. So, having said that, as I said, I am inclined, unless I hear differently, to support this. Thank you.
You know, and your question and concern is well-founded. It's just, I think, outside of the purview of this board
It is.
is the scheduling of the trains.
train station, too.
I know, and I'm not being flippant
No,
when I
no.
say that, but anybody who's also driven in downtown Manchester on the Canal Street area, like you're
Or
very.
Main Street of Nashville.
Certainly, it can happen here as well.
Mhm.
So it is unfortunate. So I don't think there's much we can do about that. But again, I think I would stand by the testimony provided, as well as the written documentation with regard to a relatively minor peak hour increase.
Yes.
So again, that may not solve all the issues, but I think to the extent possible for a development of this size and type, I think they've provided sufficient traffic documentation.
They have,
so.
thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, things to vet? Mr. Varley, please.
Mr. Chair, just echoing, I think, the points on the traffic, and just, I guess, just in reference to sort of a broader scope of our review. I mean, we see this issue come up quite frequently in terms of, incremental traffic impacts. And Alderman Clee, to your point, it's not to say that there isn't impact, there is, but the question I think that we have to ask, under, I was just referencing the site plan approval criteria, is, is it excessive? Is it substantial? Is it significant enough that would cause us to say, this really demands, that certain improvements be made by the applicant before we get grant approval, because it's that significant. And I think based on that standard, I would say no, it's not substantial enough, and consistent with many decisions this board has made over time. We've recognized that, incremental traffic impacts don't have zero impact, but they don't have substantial enough impact to justify, requiring an applicant to do, much more significant improvements to the site. And I think, again, we've heard the testimony from the applicant. They've done, required traffic impact report. We've heard, testimony as to the number of peak hour trips, and I think we can say objectively that yes, that there is going to be some impact, but it's not so substantial that, at least in my mind, that it would cause us to say, that we have to add some more significant condition, or certainly that we wouldn't be in a position to approve this application.
Alderman Clee, yes.
Thank you. I agree with everything you said. My initial concern was, I think, something that the speaker had brought up. This is incremental, and when I look at it on its own, I agree 100%. It's something that I brought up before. Each time we do a build, it kind of adds to it, and now we're doing a second build. Not that there is even space for a third one, but I brought this up. At what point does the person on the bottom of the line who has been adding traffic to it, do we say, your 20 is just too much? That was more my comment. So I do agree with everything that you said, but I do look at it as this is on top of the 95 units that were just put in there. So that was what I was alluding to. So thank you, though.
Yeah, and Alderman Clee, just to align with your point, a similar discussion came up with the new Public Works facility along
Yes.
West Hollis Street. Like, obviously, West Hollis Street, there's other concerns, and again, I think Mr. Hudson always does a very good job of informing us of what else, the city is doing either independently or trying to do in conjunction with DOT. So understanding that those projects are not going to come to fruition immediately, I think it's reassuring to know that our staff is working on those things and trying to make them happen, for the betterment of everybody, not just the first person in, but the first person who was there as well. So it's just sometimes some of those larger infrastructure projects do take a considerable amount of time, but so again, all your points are well taken and well constructed. But I think I would sort of lean back to at least the individual matter at hand that I'm again, would be comfortable, based on the level of traffic, moving forward with the in-loop, or the rather voluntary contribution in this case. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion or comments from the board at this time? If not, I think, again, order of operations here, if a member of the board was so inclined, first item we would want to take up is the one waiver request. And depending on that outcome, obviously we could move on to final site plan approval. The waiver request just pertains to showing the existing conditions. Again, it's something we see pretty frequently. But I guess I'll leave it up to the choice of the board. Mr. Varley.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion as to the waiver request, that specifically being request for waiver from 190-279EE with respect to showing existing conditions. And that motion would be to grant the waiver, finding that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship, and the waivers would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations based on the specific conditions of the land.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley, is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Varley, would you like to continue?
Sure. So I would like to continue and make a motion to grant final site plan approval for A25-0215, finding that the application does meet the approval criteria of section 190-23F and 190-146D, and that approval be subject to the subsequent conditions A through P described in the staff report.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley, is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda, under new business site plans, is case 826-0005, property located at 44 Franklin Street. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review that application and is willing to make a motion regarding its completeness and whether or not the board should accept jurisdiction? Mr. Hudson.
Mr. Chair, I move that we find case A26005 site plan amendment complete and take jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Hudson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, board has jurisdiction. Just go right ahead, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Bianca Carlson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Brady Sullivan Properties located at 670 North Commercial Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Brady Sullivan is the parent company of Lofts 34 LLC, the owner of 44 Franklin Street here in Nashua. Tonight I would like to present to you our proposal to convert the first floor of 44 Franklin Street from a vacant commercial space to 9 residential apartments. The first floor was formerly used as an ABA center, and the second floor is currently used as a public defender's office. As noted in the staff report, the change of use from a commercial use to multifamily residential apartments is an allowed alternative use in the mixed-use overlay district, where the use would otherwise not be permitted in the underlying general industrial district. On Franklin Street, you'll find Triangle Federal Credit Union, Lofts 34, which is a 168-unit apartment building previously converted by Brady Sullivan, Franklin Street School, and a church. Along L. Charles Street and Locust Streets, it's mostly residential uses. 44 Franklin Street is essentially a zero lot line site. We're not proposing to make any changes to the facade, not proposing to add any signage, and not proposing to make any other changes to the site itself, other than necessary modifications within the interior of the building only. Currently, the second floor public defenders use the triangle-shaped parking lot located on L. Charles Street as did the ABA Center on the first floor when they occupied the space. Our proposal would not change that. We would continue to have the first floor utilize the parking spaces at L. Charles Street. In speaking with staff, they have requested we come before you tonight to request your approval for us to continue to use the parking lot at L. Charles Street for this use because the parking lot is technically off-site. Lofts 34 owns the parking lot on L. Charles Street, and we have included a draft parking easement for your review. This would ensure that if for some reason that the parking lot was ever sold separately from 44 Franklin Street in the future, that the residents at 44 Franklin Street would continue to be able to utilize those spaces. Modifications we would propose for the parking lot itself, per the request of staff, would be to create one handicap parking space in the lot, add a fog line between the parking lot and the building to help vehicles turn around that road, and to reserve 9 parking spaces in the lot for residential use, for the residential units outside of normal business hours. One comment I would like to add is that the parking lot, especially at night, isn't ever anywhere near full. More often than not, the lot has a handful of vehicles in it. We don't foresee the 9 residential units causing the parking lot to become burdensome in any way. We feel as though the development will be able to easily coexist with the other uses in the neighborhood. It wouldn't have any impact on the natural, architectural, visual, or aesthetic qualities of the neighborhood. It wouldn't have any impact on customers, residents, employees of the general downtown and inner city population. It wouldn't have any negative economic impact or reduction in neighborhood property values. And it would not have any negative traffic or parking impacts in the neighborhood. Engineering has proposed a condition for us to obtain a sewer permit prior to a building permit, which we have no issue with. Engineering had also made a request that we repair or replace the emergency access gate for the railroad because it's currently in disrepair. However, our understanding is that the gate is not the property of Brady Sullivan. It would be the property of the railroad. So in speaking with Mr. Mandola, he had stated that he would confirm that with the railroad, but provided that our understanding is correct, he had no issue with removing that as a condition. Mr. LaBrie from the fire department had only one comment related to the unit numbering. I don't believe that he was sent a copy of the floor plan, the first floor plan, prior to making his comment, but the unit numbering is noted on the first floor plan, and we're not making any modifications to the second floor, so the numbering would stay the same. Again, the purpose of tonight's presentation is to request your blessing for us to use the L. Charles Street parking lot for off-site parking for the 9 residential units at 44 Franklin Street. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Alderman Cleave, go right ahead, please.
Thank you. This is my ward, so I'm very familiar with the area and the traffic that's created by the school and
Sure.
and the more recent changes in the traffic pattern and so on. You did comment that the L. Charles Street parking lot is in the evening because it is used mostly by the lawyers and so on within that area. However, during the daytime, it's completely filled.
Okay.
When you're talking about those 9 parking spaces, will they be labeled and so on and say only for use of this
Yeah.
particular address?
Yeah, so our intent would be to label those 9 dedicated parking spaces, which we had notated on the plan, right along
Right.
Charles Street,
Mhm.
if you zoom in. You can see them on the right-hand side
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Those parking spaces would be, they'd have signs on them that say reserved from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday for the residential uses, so that you can ensure that the residents have parking spaces there, at least at night, and then during the day, if they park elsewhere, then so be it within the lot. But mostly the residential uses aren't there during the day, at least generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, continue, Alderman
Thank
Cleave,
you.
please.
I understand the feeling that they're not necessary during the day, but we don't really know that because if there's
Sure.
people that don't work during the daytime and so on. So if they left that parking space, the reason I know this parking lot to be quite crowded is
Sure.
one of the complaints that I get from people is that there's no place to park in that area. Brady Sullivan does have a parking space for Loft 34.
Yeah.
Will these residents be able to use that parking? I know they're not going to be able to use the one that's right behind them, which belongs to the other property, but
Right.
will they also be able to access that, or is that going to be a separate?
I imagine so. We're not necessarily dedicating like an easement or any sort of like shared parking agreement, but Brady Sullivan has a number of parking lots within the neighborhood, so if it really became that much of an issue, I imagine that we could tell the residents to go park in one of those spaces.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please,
I
yeah.
just want to parking is a premium during the daytime there.
Sure.
Because we moved a lot of parking spaces because of the Franklin Street School. That there's a lot of on-street parking has been removed during the school time on Winter Street and Terrace, I think, and Charles. We're having a little issue with Locust Street, but, so a lot of the parking spaces have been removed. It will be difficult if there isn't an agreement, and that's my concern. You're talking about them being able to use that parking lot, but only dedicated in the evening from 6 PM to something.
Yeah, I mean,
Obviously, they don't have to move if they're there
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
morning.
we certainly could, reserve them around the clock for the residential use. But again, I wouldn't want to leave those parking spaces open during the day if the residents aren't there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that doesn't serve anyone any good. So that's why the intent would be at night, so that the residents know that they're going to have parking, at least at night for certain. But the thing is like the first floor use, when it was an AVA center, I imagine had much more of a parking demand than these 9 residential units would. They've, people who are coming and going throughout the day, they have staff, et cetera. So I hear you that the Franklin Street School would certainly have a need for parking, but the first floor use already needed parking, and this is a lesser intensive use.
May I just clarify?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. No, I'm not asking for the Franklin Street School to have access to that parking lot. That would be something that they would have to do that. No, my concern was that having put the Franklin Street School there, it created other parking issues for the residents. And I'm just concerned that these new residents could become affected by it. But I also agree with 100% with what you're saying. Don't make them a 24-hour dedicated, because that parking lot is full during the daytime. And maybe it's been used by this particular building, and so maybe it won't be that. I just wanted to air that concern. So, no, I appreciate your comments and so on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Clee, and just anecdotally, I would imagine, I personally don't have an issue with just having them be reserved during the overnight period. I imagine if there's a larger issue, you'll hear directly from your prospective tenants, and
I imagine so.
I'm not going to get into trying to dictate policy on
It's a management
how they
thing.
want to regulate their parking, but I do feel confident, just by virtue of the fact you have a place to park overnight, I think is helpful. Other questions from the board at this time? Okay. Going once, going twice? Okay. Quickly open it to the public. Gentlemen, are you here to speak to this case, or? No? Okay, so it looks like we have no one to speak either in opposition or in favor of this application. Throw it to the board one more time. All right. Thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate it. We'll close the public hearing at this time, go into our meeting. This one seems pretty straightforward to me, honestly. Sam may have other thoughts, but there may be some intimation in the future that something like this might not have to come to this board if the code is updated. Is that a fair statement, or more of an administrative approval than? Okay, well, you don't have to say anything, but in any case, I don't really see anything too unusual about this, given the character of the neighborhood and things of that. This seems like a pretty benign turnover. So, but obviously, I'd love to hear from the board if you think differently. And Alderman Clee, I do appreciate your deep dive into the parking situation. That's not unappreciated. So.
It's always my number one concern.
But other questions or discussion items from the board? Mr. Green?
Yeah, quick question about condition A. Does that leave, I assume that leaves the door open if that gate is not under ownership of Brady Sullivan to be addressed properly? Okay, I just wanted to confirm that before.
No, that's actually a good question, Cam. I think just staff perspective, does it make sense to retain that for now until ownership is secured? Okay.
Yeah, I know Joe has had a discussion, and as she described, that's exactly the
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Just further, that wasn't the only comment Joe had, so he still didn't want to reference the other comments to use
Okay.
this, but,
Got it.
but I will affirm the discussion that was had, and we're not going to make them replace a gate if it's not their responsibility. We just, it is something that we'd like to see addressed, but maybe that's something for the railroad, so.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Dan, for the clarification.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions, I guess there's two potential action items before us. One is to grant the off-site parking approval, and the other would be to ultimately grant site plan amendment approval. Is there any member of the board so inclined to start this off? Mr. Green, please.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for new business A26-0005, site plan amendment to grant off-site parking approval for the range between 44 Franklin Street and L. Charles Street, finding that the parking within 300 feet of the closest lot line of 44 Franklin Street, and both lots are under common ownership of the applicant, has provided the parking and has provided a parking easement as required in 190-192A.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Green, would you like to continue?
I'd like to continue to make a motion to grant site plan amendment approval for the change of use to allow 9-unit multifamily residential use in the GIMU district, where the most recent use was a daycare center. In granting this approval, the planning board finds that the applicant has provided sufficient rationale in the site plan suitability report dated January 13th, 2026, and meets the criteria detailed in 190-23E. And within a year prior to the signature of the final site plan, they must follow the subsequent conditions noted in the staff report A13.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Green to approve the site plan amendment. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Cleve. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Would the board have any objection if we took a quick 5-minute recess before we hear the last case? All right. All right. We are in recess at 8:37. She has a severe coccyx.
Yeah, I fell and
You missed that.
broke my coccyx.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did it yesterday. They told me it takes they tell me it takes a year to, a year, yeah.
Did you slip on ice or something?
No, on the top of my steps. I did it at the very top of the stairs and went all the way down. Well, I was in so much pain, it was like, I started getting dizzy, and I'm like, okay, I need to go to the hospital for this one. And I didn't want to call 911, because I bruised my butt.
I'm not sure if being in our company makes you feel better or worse, but we'll try to power through the last little
No,
bit here. So.
no, I'm fine with it. It keeps my mind off of my tush.
All right. All right. Well, I think if everyone's ready, do you mind giving one quick knock there, just to? All right. Thank you, Larry. All right, we are out of recess, reconvening at 8:41. Moving along with the agenda. Next item up, under new business subdivision plan, case 825-0214, property located at 72 Linwood Street. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review this application, is willing to make a motion regarding determination of completeness, and the board accepting jurisdiction over this matter? Anyone? Mr. Varley, please.
Sorry. Yes, Mr. Chairman, as to case 825-0214, I would make I'd make a motion to determine if this application is complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Varley, is there a second? Second by Alderman Clee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Board has jurisdiction. Is there any member of the public that would like to present this case this evening?
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, my name is Greg Wood, representing Meridian Land Services on behalf of Friartown Properties. Subject parcel is currently located at 72 Linwood Street, also known as Tax Map 103, Lot 245. It is located in the B Urban Residence, also known as RB District. Tonight we are proposing a 2-lot subdivision. No variance is required with this lot. More or less, we are splitting the lot down the middle. The current lot will be downsized to roughly 7,200 square feet, with the new lot around 7,000 square feet, where 6,000 square feet are only required in this area. We are seeking 4 waivers tonight, one of them being a pretty standard, as we've seen this evening. Looking for waiver 190-282B9, waive the requirements to show existing conditions within 1,000 feet of the property. We are also asking for 190-221 to waive the requirement for overhead utilities, telecommunications to be waived as well, for that to be contingent upon the builder's preference and/or the board this evening. We are also seeking 190-272 to waive the requirement for a lighting plan to be submitted for subdivision or site approval. And the last, which has been quite common, I think I've actually asked for this one every time I've been here, 190-212D2 to waive the requirement for new sidewalk. Currently, there are no sidewalks on Linwood Street, and we are prepared to provide a financial contribution in lieu of this. Like I said, at this time, it's fairly straightforward, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them this evening.
Thank you. Just, sorry, the eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm just having a hard time seeing the dimensioning. These are both otherwise conforming lots in terms of size, so.
Yes. And to add, we did receive comments back from engineering, which were on January 20th. We did address those comments, and we received a letter back on the 4th, saying that everything was satisfactory.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Okay. Going once, twice.
Just-
Mr. Hudson,
I'll
please.
just
Yeah.
further pound on that point. So Joe Mandela did issue his all set letter, so condition F can be removed from the conditions.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anything else from the board at this time? No? And I just will, are you with him, sir? Okay, so it doesn't appear as though we have anyone in the public that wishes to speak in opposition or with concern, and we have no one to speak in favor of the application. So I think if there's no other questions from the board, we can close the public hearing on this one. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
We saved the best for last. If we knew this was going to be this easy, we could have maybe bumped you guys first, so sorry about that. I think this is probably as straightforward as we're going to get. A nice rectangular lot that's literally being split right down the middle with access to an existing public street.
I think we need a traffic study.
Yeah, and they still completed their TIR worksheet, which was nice. I don't have any issues with this. The waivers, again, not to diminish our ordinances, but these are pretty common ones. I think the new one tonight would be the lighting plan, and for, I think, obvious reasons, there wouldn't be much benefit to having a lighting plan for a, two-lot subdivision. So I would certainly find myself in favor of this application, but didn't know if there's any other thoughts from the board or further discussion. Alderman Clee, please.
I never let a time go by that I don't get a comment. So I apologize ahead of time. But just for the public that's listening, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, we often get the underground utilities and the sidewalks and as waivers. And the ordinance is a good ordinance to put through so that when there's a new build in a new area, that we make sure that we address these. But when you're building into an already established area, to force someone to build a sidewalk that, I call it the sidewalk to nowhere, seems counterintuitive, that it's got to be maintained and repaved and so on. It's better to have them pay the in lieu of funds that can be used elsewhere, when we could build a sidewalk that doesn't just end in one location. And the same with the underground utilities. It's a nice thing to have when we're building a larger area, but to force them to have to do underground utilities when there's already overhead, it seems like it would be futile. And I make these comments for anybody that's listening to the public, saying, why do we have it if we're just going to always give them the waiver? I think they're good to have on the books, but the waivers are also necessary. So I think I agree with you. I think this is straightforward, and there's no concerns, traffic studies or parking or anything like that. So thank you.
And thank you, Alderman Clee. I appreciate you elaborating on that. I don't think we've ever heard that explained so concisely. I think that's important to state. Yeah. And then I also recognize in the fact that the waiver mechanism gives this board and other planning boards throughout the state the mechanism to recognize it's not always a one-size-fits-all solution. So again, I appreciate your commentary on that.
Thank you.
So, but with that being said, other comments from the board at this time? And if not, would anyone be willing to entertain a motion? We should start off, if a member is so inclined, with addressing the 4 waiver requests prior to moving into the subdivision approval. Mr. Green, please.
I'd like to make a motion for new business A25-0214 to grant the following waivers: 190-282B9, waiving requirements show existing conditions within 1,000 feet of property boundaries. The second being 190-221 to waive the requirement that all electrical communication lines servicing new subdivisions will be provided underground. The third, 190-275 to waive the requirement that a lighting plan be submitted for the subdivision. And then the fourth, 190-212D2, to waive the requirement that new sidewalks be constructed along the property frontage and provided in lieu contribution of $5,800. Finding that strict conformity would pose unnecessary hardship and the specific circumstances of the land will properly carry the spirit and intent of the regulations, considering the rationale provided by the applicant and waiver request letter dated December 11th, 2025.
All right. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Clee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. Green, would you like to continue,
Yes, I
please?
would. I'd like to make a motion to grant final subdivision plan approval for the proposed 2-lot subdivision property located at 72 Linwood Street, finding the application meets the approval criteria outlined in subdivision NRO 190-138G, subject to the following subsequent conditions, A through M, striking F and renumbering or relettering those accordingly. And, well, those noted in the staff report accordingly.
All right, thank you. Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Other business. Review of tentative agenda to determine developments of regional impact. Has any member of the board had an opportunity to review the upcoming projects from our packet? Is willing to make a motion regarding any or all potential projects of regional impact? Mr. Hudson?
Just the point of discussion first, Mr. Chair. The charitable gaming facility, I just want to affirm that my recollection is the same as the board's. We looked at this when we were looking at a different casino. We had asked for clarification whether or not regional significance crossed state lines, and it was determined it doesn't. So, in my view anyway, I don't think this triggers a development of regional significance, but I welcome the board's input on that as well.
Yeah, your point's well taken, Dan, and I think it might go beyond that, not just the previous similar application, but I think there was one on Groton Road where Dunstable Land Trust was and a butter as well. We also didn't declare regional impact there, so if there's some affirmation regarding the interpretation that regional impact declaration is something specific under New Hampshire law, I think it's a reasonable argument that the municipality, neighboring municipality and another state would not have to be notified. So I guess I'll leave it there. I'm not going to dive much deeper than that, but thank you for bringing that up. Any other discussion on the board on that?
Mr. Chair, in light of that discussion, I would move that the board find there are no projects of regional significance.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Hudson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm actually going to abstain, if I may, on that one. Motion still passes, so thank you. Moving along, Mr. Durfee, or any of your esteemed colleagues, would you like to give us a quick code update?
Less of an update, but more of just a plug for a future one. Looking at our future agendas, the meeting on the 19th of this month looks relatively light, so if you would indulge me, I would like to provide an update. We are targeting a July 1 adoption and effective date. We've done a lot of work since the last time we had any presentation here. The links in discussion items, they all link to the YouTube recordings of presentations that were before the Planning and Economic Development Committee. These are obviously, topic by topic. We identified a number of key areas of the code that we wanted to dive into as directed by that committee, and some of these meetings are an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours long, where we really got into the weeds on some of these issues. Happy to provide, a general overview of some of these presentations, but you're also encouraged to, when you find time or need to help fall asleep at night, listen to these. But with that said, I'd also welcome any opportunity to speak with you individually outside of a meeting if you have interest in the code or any specific areas. We've made some significant changes to it through our public engagement and in meetings with developers and people in the industry who've given us good food for thought to reflect on. So that will be part of this presentation, but anyone can shoot me an email and say, hey, look, I'd really like to hear more about X, Y, and Z. I'd love some input to put into the presentation. Otherwise, it'll be a general summary and maybe cover a couple of key areas that I know to be of general interest, and also the fact that we are beginning our site plan and subdivision update as part of that, the overall code update. The bulk of the work has been completed in terms of the land use ordinance, the zoning ordinance, and now tying all of the site plan and subdivision regulations, kind of porting them over. They're generally in good shape from this current code, but putting them in a format that really meshes with what we've done on the zoning ordinance side of the document. That's the remaining work that we have. So I'd like to just give an update.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Clee, please.
Thank you. I want to give a plug to the presentations you gave. They were phenomenal, and I know there were a lot of questions that were asked during those meetings. Probably most of them from me, but sorry, I can't help myself. But I just have a quick question for you, and we can address it more when all of the changes that have been coming in from Concord, did they affect any of the, and again, I'm not going to ask you to address this now, but when we go over it, are they going to affect any of the things that you've already presented to the PEDC and probably to this board as well? I'd just be interested in getting an overview of any of the changes that they've mandated. I know we've had to vote on a couple of those things that would affect our thinking and what we were going for, so.
Yes.
I
They've
figured there
thrown us
was,
a
yeah.
number of curveballs,
Yeah.
some rather significant, and that
Right.
some of which we're still working through. And actually, I just realized that we actually have a conflict. I have a conflict with Planning and Economic Development, which got bumped because of the State of the City address
Right.
on the normally scheduled PEDC meeting of Tuesday. It's been bumped to the 19th.
Okay.
So actually, I have to be in two places at once. So we may actually have to push out to the following meeting. That may be a heavier agenda. Or Connor and Scott can give an update. We'll navigate this due to scheduling conflicts. But all the more reason, if you have individual concerns, questions, comments, happy to meet with you outside of a meeting. To obviously don't convene as a quorum, but we'll happy to have a conversation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Clee.
As I am a member also of the PEDC, I would probably not be able to be here for that particular meeting and so on. So if it were bumped, I would appreciate that.
I'm not going to pigeonhole staff.
Yes.
But I think, Sam, it sounds like everything's under control. So
Yeah.
obviously it would be beneficial for the whole board to hear it. But yes, there's obviously other things going on. So when it's conducive and when you're able to fit it in, I think you certainly have an audience. So
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
So Mr. Hudson, please.
So I just went to the Recode website. Is the current working draft posted, dated May 29, 2025? Is that the latest version?
Yes, we will have
Okay.
a new one soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Other questions for Sam? I think if not, we'd probably be looking for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting. However, don't go anywhere.
No. So more to come.
We'll have to reconvene for the business meeting. So, Mr. Green, you look enthusiastic to make that motion. Would you like to?
Sure, I'll make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and continue to the non-public session.
All right, so we have all those in favor?
Aye.
To adjourn? Aye. All right, motion passes. So our regular business meeting is adjourned at exactly 9 o'clock, 9:00. So our next order of business would be to call to order our annual business meeting. So I will call that to order. It's still 9:00. So first item on the agenda, Scott, can we take another roll call, please?
Sure. Bob Bollinger,
Here.
Adam Varley,
Here.
Maggie Harper, Scott Leclerc, Dan Hudson,
Here.
Larry Hirsch.
Here.
Cameron Green,
Here.
Alderman Patricia Clee,
Here.
Benjamin Zoller.
All
I have a
right.
quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. So things are a little bit different this year. I'm sure most of you have heard Maggie, Ms. Harper, will be stepping down. So we are in need of somebody to fill the secretary role. If you will have us, both Adam and I are content to sort of continue serving in our current roles. But I think the big question was trying to fill the gap, and with Maggie exiting, per our bylaws, it does have to be a regular member. So I keep staring at that side of the table. That would leave Mr. Green and Mr. Hirsch as our only two viable candidates. I'm sure they both want the position.
We've been fighting over it.
Yeah, they.
All night. We've been kicking each other in the
All
face.
night, they've been giving each other dirty looks. But I think, and obviously I'm not going to force it upon anyone, and obviously I think the intent was not to have this thrust upon somebody last minute. So without trying to paint anybody into a corner, I guess my first question would be, would either of you be interested in serving in that position? Larry, that's so gracious of you to.
Could you nominate him, huh?
Just quick clarification, the typical role is roll call, notes on votes, and then what else is pertains to the role?
Serving as chair in the absence of the chair and the
And the
vice
vice
chair,
chair, yeah.
which I don't believe I've ever seen that.
I think Maggie did it one time, actually.
She did, actually.
Oh, really?
Once.
Yeah, yeah.
That's once in nearly 15 years for
Right,
me. Yeah.
right. And then, other than that, I think Maggie had previously volunteered, she's on the Historic Commission, she's our liaison for that, but
That's a separate.
that's a separate
appointment.
position, because that was a follow-up question I had, because if she is also relinquishing that role, Mr. Hirsch had indicated to me that he would be interested in taking that on, if I'm not putting words into your mouth, Larry.
As long as Cameron.
As long as Cam does the hard work, he has to write things down, but.
They're each going to take a position.
Cameron, that's a good deal, I would take it.
And
I would nominate myself for that position.
You're very humble.
Yes, it's greatly appreciated, and then, obviously, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, I'm sure you can, so in addition to scribing, you're obviously, participating in the discussions and motions and whatnot, so, but it would be tremendously appreciated, so thank you for stepping into that. And I guess before we make all this official with a nomination and a vote, Sam, it might need to be a later time, but if we could get Larry also at his request into that liaison position, that doesn't have to be tonight, but
We've got a meeting coming up.
I don't want to be dismissive of it if there are actions.
Actually, it'd be through the appointment process.
Okay.
Through the Board of Aldermen.
I don't think that they have, I think when it's a committee, the committee can determine, it doesn't have to go through personnel, I don't believe.
I will review the bylaws to see
Okay.
that this board's empowered to do
Yeah.
that. Because basically, you would be placing, was Ms. Harper a voting member?
Yes, she was a voting member.
I believe that is a full appointment then, but I will confirm that.
Yeah.
I don't believe one board has the authority to appoint a voting member of another board if it's not coming from.
Right, it's not as if it's a subcommittee of the
Right.
planning board.
Correct.
Right, okay, understood. But if procedurally, Sam, you need an endorsement,
Appreciate it.
I imagine Larry, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I imagine Larry has the support of the board.
Well, if Cameron
It's
wants
part
to
of
take
the-
it,
Okay.
Full backing.
Just as a side comment, I know when it came to the Greeley Park Advisory Committee, we went to the conservation, they have to have someone on that committee, and we said, give us a name. And then we just have them do that. We didn't go through the Board of Aldermen.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. Maybe we should be going through the Board of Aldermen, and if that's the case, we will.
I will let you know what the formal
Thank you.
process should be.
I appreciate that.
We have a qualified, viable candidate, so
Yes.
whatever the official mechanics are, I think we.
And I will be sitting there with you. You'll get me twice.
Well, Cam, thank you for volunteering, and Larry, thank you for volunteering as well. So I think if there's no other questions or discussion, if a member of the board was so inclined to make a nomination of the 3 officer positions, now would be the appropriate time. It's customary that we don't nominate ourselves, I believe. Alderman Clee.
I'm happy to nominate Mr. Green to the position of secretary, is that what it's called? Or- yeah.
And I think Alderman Clee, if you don't mind, just following through for the other 2 positions as well.
As
just to-
well as, I'm sorry, I'm going to script you. Mr. Bollinger for the chairperson, and I'm sorry. I want to-
Farley.
Farley, Mr. Farley is for the position of vice chair.
All right, thank you. There's a motion by Alderman Clee. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Sam, do we need to take any further action, or is that?
Adjournment.
That's adjournment. All right. All right, looking for a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned from the annual business meeting at 9:08.